For most of my life, I have struggled with how to answer one of the first questions that people always ask the first time you meet them. Where are you from? I can tell you where I currently live, but that's not where I'm from. I can tell you the name of my hometown, but I haven't lived there for nearly 40 years. I could tell you the place where I went to high school, although I did move the summer after my freshman year, so it's really two places. Another answer could be the town where I spent the better part of 20 years, most of my adult life, and by far the record for any place I've ever lived. I'm from all of these places, and a few more that I didn't bother mentioning because I didn't want to overwhelm you. If you have also lived in more than one place in your life, I think you understand the need to qualify what you mean when you say you are from a place. So the other question, similar but not identical, is about home. Where is home? Again, I can probably make a case for any of the places I have lived being my homes, some more than others, but there are other places where I've never even lived that I also consider home. Like just last week, I was at the camp I've gone to for many years, and the minute I arrived at my usual campsite, I said out loud to no one in particular, I'm home. And I meant it. Home is a word that can mean many things. So our story today is one I relate to deeply. It is a story of a woman who left the home of her childhood for a new place, which would become home in a way that may have felt deeper than her childhood connections to her birthplace. Her story is told in an ancient biblical book that bears her name, Ruth. Ruth was from the ancient country of Moab, just across the Dead Sea from ancient Judea. And as the story goes, she married a young man whose parents were from Judea, from the little town of Bethlehem, we've heard of that. They had relocated to Moab during time of famine. Tragically, Ruth's husband died along with his brother and their father, meaning that the women of the family became destitute. The mother-in-law, Naomi, told her two daughters-in-law to go back to their families and try to get married again. They were still young and fertile, while she herself would return to Bethlehem, where she hoped a relative might take care of her. So one daughter-in-law took her advice, but for some reason, Ruth refused. She didn't go back to her family, continue her life in Moab, her home. Surprisingly, this is what she said to her mother-in-law. Do not press me to leave you or to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. It's touching, isn't it? We really don't know why Ruth insisted on staying with Naomi. Was her love for her mother-in-law so great that she couldn't bear to be separated from her, even if it meant she would never see her own mother again? Was she sick and tired of Moab and longing to see the land to the west of the Dead Sea? Was she running away from something at home? Or was she running toward something in Judea, something she could only find there? We can't know for sure, but her words give us a hint. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Now, Ruth had certainly been instructed by her husband's family on the nature and character of their God, Yahweh, the God of Abraham. Perhaps others in their community knew and worshiped Yahweh, but Ruth's words indicate that she herself associated Yahweh with Naomi and her people, the Judeans. If Ruth wished to be a Yahweh worshiper, she would need such a community, because we all need community to help us grow in faith, to worship alongside us, and to lead us on our spiritual journey. Ruth decided then and there that her home was among others who worshiped the God of Abraham. In order to find her spiritual home, she had to leave the home of her childhood. So together, the two women made the journey to Judea, a dangerous journey for two women alone, I would imagine. And there in the little town of Bethlehem, they found what they were looking for, their family, in accordance with the law given to their people by their God, took them in and provided for them. Two refugee women, one Judean and the other Moabite, a foreigner, found community among the Yahweh worshipers. As Ruth had intended, Naomi's God became her God and Naomi's people became her people. Ruth had found her new home. I'm I'm sure she retained much of her foreignness. She certainly spoke Hebrew with an accent, and I imagine she may have looked a little different from the Judeans too. She may have kept some of her Moabite traditions, maybe cooking the way her mother had taught her, or singing the old songs of her childhood. I imagine she missed aspects of her old life, her mama's voice, the taste of the spices that only grew in Moab, the way the air smelled on the eastern side of the sea. But however homesick she might have felt for Moab, her home in Bethlehem is where she learned to worship her God, Naomi's God, in community. And this is important. You see, as much as we need community, so too does our faith need community. And wherever we find our faith community, we find our home. And this is part of the reason why I find it so challenging to identify just one place that I can call home. While every place I have lived has shaped me into who I am today, it is my spiritual communities that have truly been home to me. And like Ruth, I am glad that my journey has brought me far from home so that I could discover my spiritual home, or homes, for there are several. And I think they became all the more important to me because, like Ruth, I was far away from my extended family and all that was familiar. Like Ruth, it was the community of faith who took me in and made me feel welcome. When I left my home state of Wisconsin at age 12, probably close to the age Ruth was actually when she left Moab, I was warmly embraced by the United Methodist congregation in our new town, and they became my family. Through them, I discovered a more generous way of living in the world, a more inclusive way of understanding people different from me, and a deeper knowledge of God's own gracious character. My spiritual journey led me to see all God's creation as sacred, especially after I was brought to Shasta Camp, where I learned lessons no sermon or even scripture could have taught me. That is the place I still call home when I arrive, where the scent of the air relaxes me instantly and the nighttime sounds are as familiar as a lullaby. It's also one of the places where I felt and discerned my call to church leadership and eventually pastoral ministry. I wouldn't be who I am today without the communities of faith who nurtured me, both at camp and at church. What might I have become had I never left my first home? What might Ruth have become had she never left Moab? Certainly nothing too terrible. God would have loved us both no matter what. Perhaps both Ruth and I would have learned to love and serve our God from where we began, but probably not in the same way. For my part, had I stayed in one place, I do not think I would have found the path to ministry. And while I don't think it would have made a huge difference in the world, it has had a significant impact on my life, and that is something. And as for Ruth, I do think the entire world would be different had she stayed in Moab. You see, after leaving home, Ruth would live out the rest of her days in that little town of Bethlehem, where she would become the mother of Obed, who would father Jesse, who would father David, who would become a king. And 14 generations later, Jesus would come from that same family. All because Ruth decided that the people of God would be her people and their home would be her home away from home. How about you? Have your journeys, either short-term travels or permanent moves, brought you closer to God and to your spiritual home? Are you currently feeling at home in a spiritual sense? If not, you may need a change of scenery to get closer to God. But good news, you do not have to move far away to find a nurturing faith community. You may just need to lean in a little closer to the people who are near you already. We all need a community to guide us on our faith journey, and those of us who gather regularly to worship with others are already on the right track. But for true spiritual growth and nourishment, we need to go a little deeper. Connecting weekly with a smaller group of people is essential to our spiritual formation. I finally began doing this myself earlier this year, and it has become a lifeline. Having regular connection with others who seek to know God better and to know God in community is a powerful kind of medicine. I not only feel more confident in my walk of faith, I feel happier in general, more optimistic about the world, more hopeful about the future the more I connect with others who are seeking to align their own lives with divine love and wisdom. Yes, it takes time in our busy schedules, but I find myself myself looking forward to that time, and I miss it when I can't make it. My wish for you, my friends, is that you too will do what Ruth did and move closer into a community that can support you in your spiritual growth. Let God's people be your people, for it is only in community that we can thrive. Sometimes we don't know what it is we are longing for until we find it, and we don't know where home is until we are there.